She was just a simple woman, walking to work on an ordinary Tuesday morning, her mind tangled in bills, deadlines, and the little worries of everyday life. Coffee in hand, she barely noticed the bustling crowd around her. But in a single, heart-stopping moment, her cup tipped and hot coffee splashed across a sharp, expensive suit. Her heart sank. She expected yelling, anger, maybe even a public scene. But the billionaire standing in front of her didn't react the way anyone would imagine. Instead of fury, his eyes lingered on her, not the mistake, not the spill, but on something entirely unexpected. Her beauty, her presence, held him in a way that made everything else fade. Time seemed to pause as embarrassment and curiosity collided, and she couldn't decide whether to run or apologize again. The street around them blurred, the noise fading, leaving just the two of them in that moment. She had no idea that this accidental encounter could change her life forever. And he seemed intrigued in a way that went far beyond coffee stains or suits. Little did she know, this small, ordinary mistake would open a door to a world she never imagined. What would happen next? She fumbled for a napkin, her hands shaking as she tried to blot the stain. But the billionaire just watched, calm and composed, as if nothing else in the world mattered except the way she hesitated. Her thoughts rest. How could someone so powerful, so untouchable, be noticing her at all? She was just a clerk, an ordinary woman with a quiet life, never expecting attention from anyone in his world. Meanwhile, he straightened his jacket effortlessly, but there was a glint in his eyes that made her wonder if he saw more than just her appearance. Was it curiosity, amusement, or something deeper, something that hinted at a life far removed from the one she knew? She remembered the stories, how he was a billionaire, untouchable, surrounded by wealth and power, yet seemingly so inaccessible. And here he was, standing inches away, letting her awkwardness linger in the air like an unspoken question. Her heartbeat raced, and the world felt suddenly smaller, crowded only by this unexpected encounter. Neither spoke for a long moment, and in that silence, something unspoken passed between them, an invisible thread pulling two very different lives together. But what did he really want from this meeting? And how could one simple mistake possibly lead to anything more? She forced a nervous smile, trying to steady her voice. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." Her words trailed off as she searched his face for any sign of anger. But instead of scolding her, he tilted his head slightly, as if studying her like a puzzle he wanted to solve. That made her heart thump louder. What did he see in her that everyone else had overlooked? As the crowd moved around them, oblivious to the silent tension, she noticed the expensive watch on his wrist, the subtle luxury in his every movement. This wasn't just a man. He was a world she'd only ever read about in magazines. And yet, his attention was on her, a simple woman in a messy dress with coffee stains. Something about that didn't make sense, and it made her more uneasy than embarrassed. Her mind flashed to her life-endless hours at the office, the cramped apartment she called home, the quiet evenings with nothing extraordinary to look forward to. And now, here was a man who seemed to carry the weight of power and secrets, looking at her as if she might hold one of his answers. Unnoticed by her, a small smile curved on his lips. But what was he thinking? Was this curiosity, or something that could unravel both their lives in ways she couldn't imagine yet? The city buzzed around them, but in that moment, the future felt uncertain, fragile, and strangely thrilling. Her hands trembled as she tried to regain her composure, but every instinct told her to step back, to disappear into the crowd. Yet she couldn't move. Something about the way he looked at her held her in place, as if the world had narrowed down to just this moment. The coffee stain on his suit suddenly felt like the least of her worries. He took a step closer, and she noticed the faint scent of cologne, sharp and intoxicating, mingling with the city air. "You're not like anyone I've met before," he said quietly, almost to himself, but loud enough that she heard. She blinked, unsure whether to be flattered, confused, or terrified. His words hinted at curiosity, but also something more something. Unpredictable, dangerous even. Her mind raced. What did he really want? Was this an innocent fascination, or at the beginning of a life she had no idea she could enter? She thought about her quiet existence, the safety of routines, the small, predictable steps she took every day. Could she really step into a world so different, so high stakes? The city seemed to pause around them as tension coiled tighter. Every glance, every word, every breath was loaded with possibility. And in that suspended moment, she realized one simple mistake had placed her on a path from which there might be no turning back. The question hung in the air. What would happen next? Just as she thought she might catch her breath, her phone buzzed. In her pocket, she fumbled to check it, expecting a routine notification, but froze at the message that flashed on the screen. It wasn't from a friend or a coworker, was from an unknown number, and the text was simple: "Stay away from him." It's not what it seems. Her stomach dropped. How did someone even know she was here? And more importantly, why would they warn her? She glanced up at the billionaire, whose calm expression hadn't changed, though there was a hint of curiosity. Was it suspicion? In his eyes now, the coffee spill, her nervousness, the mysterious warning, it all collided in a swirl of confusion and tension. Suddenly, the encounter wasn't just a simple accident. It was a spark, igniting a series of unknown dangers. Her thoughts raced. Could this meeting, which had felt so strangely intimate, actually put her at risk? And who would go to such lengths to warn her? The ordinary life she had clung to suddenly seemed fragile, almost meaningless, as if she had stepped into a world full of hidden agendas and secrets that threatened to upend everything she knew. The city continued its noisy rhythm around them. But for her, the moment stretched taut with uncertainty. One question echoed louder than the rest. What had she truly stumbled into, and could she survive the consequences of this chance encounter? Her heart pounded as she took a cautious step back, unsure whether to trust the man who had captivated her attention or the warning that now burned in her mind. The billionaire finally spoke, his voice low but commanding. "You don't know the whole story, do you?" He reached into his coat and pulled out a small folder, handing it to her. Curiosity wrestled with fear as she opened it, revealing photos, documents, and details that suggested someone close to him had been sabotaging his comperient, that her accidental appearance wasn't entirely random. Shock and disbelief tangled in her chest. She had only spilled coffee, only made a clumsy mistake, but somehow she had become a key part of unraveling a dangerous scheme. He studied her face closely. "I needed someone honest, someone who wouldn't be blinded by wealth or power. And that's why you're here." Before she could respond, a sudden commotion erupted behind them. Security rushed past, and she realized the warning text had been real. Someone was trying to stop her, to prevent her from seeing the truth. Panic and adrenaline surged as she and the billionaire exchanged a brief, knowing glance. Then, in the chaos, he whispered, almost teasingly, "By the way, you're not the only one whose life is about to change. Mine is too." And just like that, the ordinary woman who had spilled coffee found herself at the center of a dangerous game, where nothing was as it seemed. In the real story was only just beginning. After the chaos settled, she found herself sitting across from him in his sleek office, the city lights twinkling through the glass walls. The folder lay between them, evidence of deception, sabotage, and betrayal that had once seemed so distant from her quiet life. She had never imagined that a spilled cup of coffee could pull her into a world of wealth, power, and hidden dangers. He smiled, this time softer, almost human. You did what no one else could. You stayed honest when it mattered, even when it was scary. She realized that her ordinary life, her careful routines, her simple ambitions had prepared her in ways she had never recognized. Courage, integrity, and a sharp eye had led her to this moment. As they spoke, she felt a strange mix of relief and exhilaration. The threat that had loomed over them was gone, but the connection between them lingered, unspoken yet undeniable. She had entered his world by accident, but she was no longer just an observer. She had become part of the story, leaving the office later. She glanced back at him once, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Life, she understood, could change in an instant hand. Sometimes a small mistake could turn into the most extraordinary adventure. She smiled, ready for whatever came next.